Aside from that, everything's cool. But it's my last chance to get at you before the UttaraTantra. Well, actually I have a few more. But anyway, so it's the last class of this particular course, and it always has a special feel to it. And sort of a wrap up. I don't know, sort of a denouement, right? So like a, what do you call it? Like a crescendo, right? So I thought it would be really cool to do the 12 deeds of the Buddha. Okay, and that's what we're going to do today, which is a big subject in the UttaraTantra. Okay. Okay? You okay, David? Oh, okay. By the way, the Moors are here, and I just wanted to say they're really doing unbelievable stuff. Like, not only teaching dozens and dozens of people, I don't know how many, and then they've spawned a teacher, and then there's people all over Colorado that they're supplying. It's like heroin pushers, you know, and then they're taking over all the correspondence for ACI and all the correspondence courses for ACI, and then they just gave me a pile of letters from prisoners. Like, there's a whole big thing happening among prisoners. Like, they're just piling in for the courses. Bonnie told me they got 16 prisoners in one day signing up for the courses, but it's going like that. So. Just wanted to salute you for that. It's really cool. And Debbie Bai, because we went to the prison yesterday again. This is my third trip, and those guys are just unbelievable. What they're doing is unbelievable. You know, really, really good. Their meditation is really good. Their study is really good. There's a whole little movement among the Navajo prisoners to study Tibetan Buddhism. And they've all asked the chaplain to change their religious affiliation to Buddhism, and they're speaking Tibetan. Apparently there's some connection between, you know, they say that maybe the Navajo came from the Mongols and the Tibetans, and they walked across the Aleutian Islands, the Bering Straits, And you can believe it, because they just pick it up like that, you know. And it's just really cool. Like, it's just something you never expected, you know. And everyone's happy. The warden is happy. All the Christian chaplains are happy. The prisoners, there's less violence, you know. And it's really cool. So, anyway, yeah. Say, Zepa? Chuni. These are the 12 deeds of the Buddha. And this is a big subject in general in Scripture, but it's not a big subject in the monastery per se. I mean, in the monastery you hear very little on... you okay? Do you need any adjustments?
Yeah, there's an adjustment needed.
Okay. I'll wait till you get it. You okay? Take your time. Take your time.
We were trying to add a system.
Hey, we're going to do the Zepa 12 deeds of Lord Buddha. And generally it's a big subject in Buddhism, obviously, but interestingly, I think it's not a big subject in the monastery. Like, we don't study Buddhist history much. Like, if you ask people about the history of Buddhism in the monastery, they just give you this blank stare. And, you know, there have been debates among Tibetan scholars like Bhutan Rinpoche and Taranata. Master Taranata, when did Buddha live? You know, what were the dates? When did stuff happen? And nobody knows. Like, if you ask Ken Rinpoche, when did this Lama live? He'll say, oh, somewhere between Atisha and Tsongkhapa, which is like 500-year stretch, you know. And, you know, we don't get this much in the monastery. So I thought it'd be good to go through it. I think it's good to know. The 12 deeds of the Buddha are something, they're not only important for historical reasons, you know, like to know how Lord Buddha got to be enlightened, but they're very important for Tantric worldview, because they are sort of a model or a message to us, you see? Like, according to the highest view of Lord Buddha, or there's several, you can say there's 3 views of how Lord Buddha did the 12 deeds, but the highest one, or the unique one they call it, is that he was just sending a message to us. Like, he got enlightened long, long before that lifetime of Gautama Buddha in India. And, you know, every one of the 12 deeds is a metaphor for our lives, you see? So everything Lord Buddha did is a statement. And one of your homework questions is speculate on the connection, you know? Why did Lord Buddha do this particular deed? What was he trying to tell us? You see, what was the message for modern people of any time, right? That Lord Buddha was trying to communicate when he faked this. They say tsotumba, say tsotumba. Tsotumba means to fake or to pretend to get enlightened or to pretend to have trouble meditating or, you know, like that. So what was the point for us? So as we go through the 12, I encourage you to free associate, you know, why did Lord Buddha pretend to do that, you see? What was he trying to tell us, you see? So I'm going to go through the 12. I thought we could do them in a brief way. I'll just give you the names of them and a brief description. And then I'd like to go into some details about, there's some debates about some of them, and I thought that's kind of fun. And then there's a section I'm interested in, is that how did the Buddhist holidays come out of those deeds, you see? Like, why do we celebrate certain holidays and what's happening on certain holidays? So I took out a section from one Lama about how the 12 deeds relate to our standard 6 Buddhist holidays that we celebrate during the year. So I thought that'd be fun for you. And then towards the end, there's something from the Kalachakra Tantra about, you know, what's the tantric viewpoint on these 12 deeds. I thought you'd enjoy that. And then there was one more thing. What's that? Oh, 2 more things. There's Sarah Jetsun, which is the great textbook writer from Sarah J. Wrote a long piece, kind of, he put it more into a story, the 12 deeds, you know, like he didn't just put them philosophically, he like stretched it out into a nice story. So I thought maybe we'll just do that, you know, like I'll go through it. And it has a lot more detail than the other ones do about what was his mother's name and what was his father doing and stuff like that. And then at the very end, there's this cool part I threw in from the Sojong ceremony, monk Sojong ceremony, which is when Lord Buddha was born, like he came out of his mother's side. And then he stands up, like he's a baby, right? And he takes 7 steps in each direction. and he makes a declaration, you know. And I thought it'd be cool for you to hear that. Like, as he takes each step, a lotus flower grows under his feet, you know, like this huge lotus flower. And he does 7 steps in the 4 directions, and then 1 down and 1 up. And then he makes these proclamations, you know. And they're really cool. We repeat them during the monks' and nuns' purification ceremony. So I just thought I'd throw it in at the end. It's like he's coming out of the closet and he's like telling who he really is. You know, and it was just for me, I love that. It's very inspiring. It gives me chills up my spine when I read it. So anyway, here we go on the first. First of the 12 deeds. Can you see okay? Okay. Say Ganden. Ganden. Ne. Ne. Poa. Poa. You know what poa is, right? You heard the word poa, right? What's it mean in $25 a class posters? Yeah. Tantric practice of I shouldn't do that, but of move. That's your first bodhisattva actually. Of moving your consciousness. But here it just means Lord Buddha moves from the heaven he happens to be staying in and comes to the earth. Okay. So Ganden is Tushita. Same root as tush and thick and butter, right? And Santosha. And so he's coming from Tushita down to our planet, okay? And that's the first of them. And I'm going to say a lot more about them, but I'll just summarize, okay? I'm just going to go quickly through the 12. On your homework, you just have to list the 12 without explanation of the 12 first. So I thought I'd just do that, okay? So first one, and they have slightly different names in different scriptures. Like you might see them with slightly, it might not be spelled exactly this way or things like that, okay? What was the second one? Say Hlumsu. Shukpa. Hlum means the womb. Nyal is another word that you've heard before, nyalke, but Hlum means the womb. And then Jukpa means to enter. Sometimes it's called Hlumsu Shukpa using a different tense of the verb. So to enter its mother's womb. Okay. Her name was Maya. Okay. Oh, everybody have that? Okay. Got it? Okay. And these are all coming from a root text of the UttaraTantra. Say kutamba. Kutamba. Okay, what's the word for born, to be born? Kiewa. But this is high honorific. Like we don't say Dalai Lamas are kiewa, we say they're tamba. Okay? And ku means like holy body. So this means birth, coming out of the womb. Okay? And in Buddhism, it's a big difference being conceived and then coming out of the womb, or entering the womb and coming out 9 months apart or 10 months apart. We use different words. Okay? So kutamba. Number 4. Say sone, la, ke. What's kepa? Master. Yeah, master. And then soine means the fine arts. Like in the Tengyur, there are sections called sone, which means medical arts, construction arts like art, architecture, painting, sculpture are called sone. And so here, this word, which would mean normally the arts, mastered the arts, it refers to what we call the 64 gyutsel, which are, in the old days it was archery and taming elephants and painting, and it included all those things that a king should know. It's basically business stuff, stuff that a king would know business-wise to run their kingdom. So it's got to know military stuff, got to know construction stuff, painting, architecture, things like that. Business, administration. You can call it administration, okay? And he became like unbelievable in all of those normal worldly arts, okay? Number 5. Oops, scratch that. Say tsumo. Korge. Tsumo means, anybody know?
A big wave from Japan.
Yeah, that too. But this one in Tibetan means queen, a queen. And kor means the circle or the whole group of queens. And ge means ro. What's roa mean? Like rolso. Yeah, to play. And so he had a good time with all the queens. Okay? Like, had his pleasure with the queens. Okay? That was part of his 12 deeds. Okay? And that led to no, not really. Okay. See who's Tibetan is good. Say Ngepa, Juma. Or the short form is Ngenjung, which literally means it's the first of the three principal paths, right? Renunciation. But you remember, I forget what class it was, course it was. Anthony would know, he did this over and over. But anyway, it means to leave the home, to go away. Leave it all. You know, leave the worldly life. Okay? This is when he ran away from the palace, went out to be a yogi. Okay? Definitely gone. Right? Ngenjung. Say kawa, chepa. Kawa, chepa. Kawa means tapas, right? Difficult spiritual practices, like going out in the desert and sitting in a yurt for 3 years is kawa. Okay, kawa means anything hard. Okay, anything difficult. But here it refers to difficult spiritual practices. And then chepa means he performed them. And this is where Lord Buddha spent 6 years with the Hindu yogis, like burning his body, sticking himself with spears, you know, starving himself, trying like extreme means of liberation. Okay. Okay, number 8. Say Changchub, Ningbor, Shek, Changchub, Ningbor, Shek. Changchub, Buddhahood, Ningbo, heart or essence, right? And then means to, Shek means like Deshin Shek, but Tathagata went to the heart of Buddhahood. This doesn't refer to enlightenment. The heart of Buddhahood has a physical meaning and it has a mental meaning. And we had it, I think we had it in New York when we did Lord Atisha's Lamp of the Path on a Friday night. Remember? Oh, the physical heart of the Buddha is Bodhgaya, is Vajrasana, the seat of the diamond. The old name is, I like the old name better, Vajrasana, the asana of Vajra, the seat of the diamond. Modern name is Bodhgaya, right? And then the mental essence of Buddhahood is enlightenment, but that's not what it means here. Here it's referring to the place. So he got fed up with doing asceticisms on the, what was that? Niranjana River, and went to what is now called Bodh Gaya. Okay, he sat himself down at the tree. That's all included in number 8. Okay, went to Bodh Gaya, sat down under that tree. Okay. Yeah. Number 9. Say dude, jom. Dude, jom. Do means what?
Desire.
Demon. Yeah. What'd you say?
Sorry. Desire. No.
Oh yeah, close. Same, very similar. Yeah, like a tiny spelling difference. So do means like demons, and then de means the whole army of demons, right? And then jom is one of the tenses of chom, as in dra chomba, which means what? To destroy, like smash them up. Okay, defeated the army of demons. Okay. They never come in one, right? Say Dzog, Changchum. Became fully enlightened. Dzog means fully, Changchum means enlightened. Is there a half enlightened?
Yes.
Sort of, according to mine only, especially lower Madhyamika. Arhat, right? Lower Arhat. Okay. And it always used to confuse me. Samyak Sambuddha. What? Why? Okay. Anyway, he got fully enlightened. Okay, under the Bodhi tree. Number 11. What's that? Oh, yeah. Say Chunkor? Kor. Chunkor? Kor. Where's the N?
The prenasal.
You never have prenasal on the second column. Exception. Okay. Yeah, don't ask me why. You know, like His Holiness was calling, you know the word for Siddhanta? What is that? Comparative school philosophies that His Holiness taught in New York for 4 days. What Drupta, but he called it Drumta. Yeah, because he's from Eastern Tibet. Okay, and they pronounce their prefixes more. Okay, he's going Drumta. You know, so Chunkor is the normal pronunciation, and then Kor means to turn the Dharma chakra, to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Okay. On the homework, I said wheels. Okay, because it's the three actually. Okay, it's the 3 turnings of the wheels. Okay, so Chunkor Korwa. Then number 12, last one. Say Nyangde? Sultan. Nyangene Depa? Nirvana? Sultan is that thing like pretend. Sul means wait, ten means to show. So it means to put on, getting final, what they call parinirvana, which is dying, like appearing to die and leave this world, okay, at the age of 81. Okay. Okay, then I'm going to go through some... I'm just going to go through some stuff about the 12. Let me see. Anything from Gyaltsab J? Oh, there's a very nice verse which Christy's going to go over with you in the Sanskrit, which is the first verse in which the Uttara Tantra talks about the 12 deeds. But it says... Tukjay Chemba Jikten Ken, Jikten Kuna Signeni, Chuki Kule Ma Yepar, Chupi Rangshin Natso Ki. And then they go into the 12 deeds. And when you do the Sanskrit, you got to point out the Sanskrit is cooler because you get this thing, listen to it. Mahakarunaya Kursnayam Lokam Alokya Lokabit. It says like lok. He's like making a fun. But then when you get into Tibetan, you don't see it anymore, you see. But anyway, Tukjay Chembo means Mahakaruna, out of great compassion. Jikten Ken, Lord Buddha sees the entire universe, Like this is amazing. Like we're talking about, I like this subject. We're talking about how does the world begin? How does the universe start? What's the first click that sets off this thing of a Buddha coming to a planet, Like to me it's very sexy, Like Abhidharma has this old thing of cosmic dust starts to collect in a certain part of space, and then two particles get together, and then 4 particles, and then a big cosmic energy wind comes, and it starts to whip it into circles, and then galaxies form, and then, and they go into this whole thing. For me, this whole thing is the same, Something triggers Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha is in a state of enlightenment already, you see? And then something triggers movement, like, which is Tukje Chembo, Mahakaruna. Like, he's like, something wakes him up, and he's like, I gotta do something for people, like it's not so much like that nirvana we were talking about before, like the arhats that are just sitting there spaced out. I mean, according to the Mahayana, Lord Buddha is already emanating billions of emanations, right? But still there's this moment in history when he decides or doesn't decide, right? But there's the emanation goes to planet Earth, this particular planet, and it gets into this whole idea, which you should think about. Not only are the 12 deeds not just some historical thing, not only are they a message to us, but they seem to be generic. You see, anytime an enlightened being decides to go to a planet, it seems like it's the same process, And Buddhism says that the formation of a planet is pretty much the same all the time, Like planets form along the same paradigms, physically, geologically, and things like that. And then apparently when an enlightened being decides to go to that planet, there's always this generic flow of events, you see? So we're not just talking about Gautama Buddha's 12 deeds, we're talking about the 12 deeds as a paradigm, as a archetype. Okay, and that just feels cool to me. So anyway, there's this emotion. And the Hindus have this thing, very big on that. When do you go from stasis Anyway, to movement. When is the first click? And they have all these debates about it. Because they have to say there's a first one, right? We get out of it because we say that's just a reaction from an earlier reaction. But anyway, great compassion comes. Then Jikten Ken. Somehow Lord Buddha sees the universe. Like Lord Buddha examines the universe, And there's a whole description of that. I put it in here. I'm not going to go over it, but it's called The Way the Elephant Looks. And it's just like looks backwards, forwards, up, down, all around, all times, checks all times at the same time, something like that. It's very beautiful. So I threw it in there. But like he checks out the scene in billions of universes, like what's happening today? Jikten Ken. Then Jikten Kun La Sik means the Buddha, the knower of all worlds, looks upon our world. It says maybe that would be a good place. Jikten Sik looks. Then Chukikule Mayapar. Then the emanation begins to be sent from the Dharmakaya. So Dharmakaya is what? Mainly. It's just emptiness. It's the emptiness of the other three bodies, right? Just this primordial state of emptiness, this unbelievable state of emptiness, this undescribable state of emptiness. It's what you see. It's the part of the Buddha that you see when you see emptiness directly. And you get this actual sensation of it being to your left and back and right there, next to you, and you like get a perception of it. So, but without moving from that, without stirring from the Dharmakaya, Trupe Rangshin Natso, then sends out just billions of bodies, sends out all kinds of different bodies, Nirmanakayas, to different worlds, okay? So that's the process as described in the first verse from the Uttara Tantra. And then they go into the 12 deeds, then this Nirmanakaya goes through these 12 deeds. They call it Chokituku, which means what? Buddha Classic, yeah, I like Cult Classic and Buddha Classic. So Chokituku means Supreme Nirmanakaya, meaning the normal one that you always see in the paintings, like this one, this image right here, okay? So sends out mainly this Nirmanakaya to do the 12 deeds. Do you have a question?
How does that fit in with the fact that it's not a conscious?
Yeah. Debbie asked, how does that fit in with the fact that it's supposed to be hundup, which is, what do they call it, spontaneous, totally spontaneous, unpremeditated, how does that fit in? You got to understand one thing. When we give this presentation today, you got to keep in mind one thing. And when you teach it, you have to keep in mind one thing. Many of the presentations of the 12 deeds are coming from the Hinayana, from the Vinaya, okay? And they have a whole different take on it, which since you asked, I'll go into. They believe that Lord Buddha was not faking it, And by the way, it's not just the Hinayana schools. It's Hinayana schools, and it's also two other major sources, which you don't have to worry about, but I just want to be accurate, okay? Abhidharma has two versions. There's the normal one that we always talk about, Vaibhashika, detailist. Then there's a higher Abhidharma, which is a mind-only Abhidharma, which was written down by Arya Sangha, okay? So his brother, half-brother, Vasubandhu, Master Vasubandhu, did the Abhidharma that we always talk about, which is the first school. But there's a higher Abhidharma called Mwemba Kuntu, Abhidharma Samuchaya, which is the mind-only take on Abhidharma. So you got that book. Then you've got Arya Sangha's Sade, Na, which are the 5 versions of the levels of bodhisattvas, etc. It's called the levels. Sometimes we just call it Sa, the levels. And then everybody knows what you're talking about. Bodhisattva bhumis, and also Shravaka and Prateka Buddha bhumis, okay? So he wrote a big book, 5-part book. So anyway, these ideas about how Lord Buddha comes to this world, which sound to Debbie like strange, because isn't it supposed to be spontaneous, what we're going to be talking about draws a lot from Abhidharma, Vinaya, the lower schools, Hinayana schools. And then the same viewpoints are expressed in a few higher schools' books, like the higher Abhidharma, which is mind-only. And then, what was the second one? Oh, the bhumis, the presentation on the bhumis, which is partly mind-only, mostly mind-only, like that. Okay, so what I mean to say is, it's not safe in a debate ground to say that the basic presentation of the 12 deeds is Hinayana. Because some mind-only schools are talking about it that way too. So you have to be careful in a debate. Okay. So, when would you guess if let's get on to that subject. I'm going to give you what's called the normal view of the 12. Who did the 12? What level was Buddha on when he did the 12? There's the normal view, then there's the special view, and then there's the tantric view. Okay? So I'm going to talk to you about 3 viewpoints about the 12 deeds. If you had to guess, this thing's hot. If you had to guess, I'll just give you a debate question. You know, I'll say like, Lord Buddha was enlightened during all 12 of the 12 deeds. Kimberly, you want to try?
Sure.
Wow. So it doesn't say in authoritative scriptures that he was a bodhisattva up through the 9th. And then he got enlightened, and then he did the rest of the 3. Right? It's true that they don't say that? Oh, so they do say that. So they're not authoritative scriptures. Good. So they are authoritative, but it doesn't mean they say that he was a bodhisattva for 9 steps and a Buddha for 3. Right. Right. Why?
Why do they say that?
Yeah, or why does there seem to be a what do you call it? A contradiction here?
Because there's different understandings about Buddha enlightenment depending on the school.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So if you're talking lower 2 schools, plus those mind-only guys who wrote those few books, right? They're saying he was a bodhisattva up through 9, and then for 10, 11, 12, he was a Buddha. Okay? And there's 2 schools of thought on that. Okay? What kind of bodhisattva was he during the 9? Some schools say, like lower schools, okay? He was on Soglam, which is what? Path of accumulation, which is the first of the 5 paths. Some schools say he was on the path of accumulation up to this point, up through 9, okay? Then suddenly he goes, you know, actually they say that when he sat down under the tree, he was on the path of accumulation, and he didn't get up until he was enlightened. So the lower schools say that he covered Jorlam, path of preparation, Tonglam, path of seeing, Gomlam, path of habituation, and hit path of no more learning in one sitting. Okay, yeah. Now some schools say that. Then slightly higher schools who still believe he did get enlightened during that life say he was a 10th level bodhisattva up through the 9th stage, you know, and then he switched over to an enlightened being. Okay, so there's 2 ideas on that. And then some schools divide his career into non-ordained and ordained. Okay, I mean, his bodhisattva career in itself could be divided into the time when he was not ordained, and then the time he was ordained. Chukila, you're the Vinaya expert, right? Let's talk about the Buddha. Ngacho yimba, chicho yimba. Did he get enlightened according to the old way of ordination or the new way of ordination? I'm sorry, ordained as a full monk. According to the old way of ordination or the new way of ordination? Like the old way, for example, is, come here. You know, come to me. And then the guy's hair falls out and they get robes, you see. Then the latter ordination is so you got to have these Sangha quorum of 5 ordained monks, and there has to be all these requirements, you know. Which one, Lord Buddha? Yeah, right. He's what we call Rangjung Nyenzo. What's Rangjung Dorje? Self-made, yeah, Rangjung means self-made. He's a self-made full monk, okay? Like it just happened, you know? And there's two debates about that, okay? I mean, we're on the subject of was he just a bodhisattva, right? Some people say when he left the home life, Ngepa Jungwa, after fooling around with the queens, right? Ngenjung, when he went to Ngenjung, then he cut his own hair off. That is the case. I mean, he had seen a monk. Remember the story outside the gate? We're going to talk about it. But so he went out into the forest and he had long prince's hair, you know, and he took it and he cut it himself. And then he just got some orange clothes and he put them on. and he gave up he threw away all his jeweled vestments, you know. And some people say that that was the moment he got ordained. They call it automatic ordination, you know. But then some schools, the higher schools, say you're always automatically ordained when you become enlightened. Okay, like that's called automatic ordination. Okay, you count as a fully ordained person the moment you get enlightened. Like that's good enough to call it fully ordained. Okay, which brings up an interesting question: is Vajrayogini fully ordained? Yeah, automatic full ordination. Okay, that changes things a bit. Okay. It brings up some interesting questions. Okay. Anyway, you can debate that when you get to Tantra class. Okay. I'm just going through the reading and make sure I cover everything. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we didn't do Tantric, right? I found an interesting source that has. I'll read it to you. Okay, it'll take a long time to find that. When we get to it, we'll do it. There's a beautiful description about what he was doing in Ganden, in Tushita heaven, before he decided to come to this planet. Okay, and that's another story. There's a homework question that says, why did he pick this realm? Okay, like why did he pick this particular realm? The desire realm, and in particular what we call Zambaling, which is our realm, right? Our particular part of the desire realm. They call it the southern continent, and then people think that's silly, and I don't think it is as silly at all. I think there are realms that we can't see everything, and we happen to be in what's called the southern realm, but Jambudvipa, right? And he always picks the central land of Jambudvipa, which corresponds nowadays to India, central India. The main body of India is called the middle of the world for humans, right? So why does he choose to come there? And that's on your homework, and there's two answers, there's two parts to the answer. One is that it's called Lekisapa, say Lekisapa. Lekisapa means, and then there's a Longchukisapa, say Longchukisapa. Longchukisapa means the other three realms, the northern, western, and eastern islands, if you want to call them that, or continents. When you do the mandala, you do those 4 continents. We're on the southern one. But anyway, he doesn't appear on the other 3 and on other parts of the desire realm, like Mount Meru, because people there don't appreciate lay. They're running on Longchu. Bhutendriyatmakam bhogabhavagartam darshyam. Comes in the Yoga Sutra. People on the other continents are just interested in consuming. They are consumers. Longchupa. They just want to eat, they just want to drink, they want to make money, get a house, eat, consume. You know, that's their focus. They want to be consumers. And then they just go like that until the day they die. And why is the northern continent called what it's called? Draminyan. Sound of terror, why?
Because they live for a certain amount of years and then they die. They kind of realize that.
Yeah, the last day, after 500 years, they have a guaranteed lifespan, 500 years. And then they hear this sound from the sky, you're going to die tomorrow, you know, and they go crazy. They just go mad, you know. And I'm afraid most of our country's people are like that, you know. They consume and consume and consume. Like I went to see my old diamond business friends, and it's very sad now. They're getting into their old age, and it's a very sad thing. They're obviously very hopeless, and they know it. And the consuming years are drawing to an end. The years when you have the energy and the strength and vitality and brains to make money fast, they're dragging down, they're wearing out, you know, and they know it, and they're very disturbed. And we went out to dinner, and, you know, they're like 3-hour talks about what's this Buddhism stuff, and, you know, it's like getting interesting, right? So anyway, there's your consuming years, right? But we are Lekisa. Lekisa means people who appreciate karma. His Holiness called it during the last weekend, he called it, what do you call it? Namcha Vikalpa. People who are analyzing life. People who are trying to examine their lives. He called it examining their lives. You know, he called it a whole tekpa, a whole yana, called people who are examining their lives, what's going on, and Lekisapa means they appreciate karma, they understand karma, they understand that karma is involved. So anyway, on this particular realm called, I could call it Earth as far as I'm concerned. I mean, nowadays in the Tibetan newspapers they're starting to call it, when they translate Earth from a Western news report, they put Zambaling, Jambudvipa, which means the southern continent, means our world, our planet. It's a place where people live who have the brains to figure out karma, So that's one difference. We're not just blind consumers. I mean, we have the capacity to be more than blind consumers, okay, with training. And then the second one was, what was that? Oh, we are able to develop renunciation. We see suffering and we do something about it. We have the capacity. Like like animals are aware of suffering, but they don't decide to go out to Bowie, Arizona and try to, practice the solution or something like that. It's only a certain kind of mentality that can do that. So that's why Lord Buddha chooses a human rebirth, to appear as a human and to come into this part of the desire realm. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Yeah, some big debates about when he was enlightened. Oh, so are the 12 deeds of the Buddha the 12 deeds of the Buddha? Earl. There's a debate about that.
Are the 12 deeds of the Buddha the 12 deeds of the Buddha?
Yeah. If something exists, it's itself. That's an old debate in the monastery. If it exists, then it's itself. Anything that exists is itself, automatically. Right. So the 12 deeds of the Buddha are 12 deeds of the Buddha. Right. So the Buddha was a Buddha when he did the 12 deeds. Okay, you can debate that later someday. Okay. Anyway, you get the point, right? I mean, if you take the lowest school's thing, you can't call it the 12 deeds of the Buddha, right? Because he wasn't a Buddha when he did 9 of them, right? Okay, anyway, that's not so big deal. Okay. Here's a book by Chankya Rupe Dorje, who's famous for writing the biggest Drumta of all time, 4 volumes, huge volumes. And it's unbelievable. It's really beautiful. I took a lot of the Mahamudra course from that, okay? We should translate that in our copious free time. But in there he quotes the Kalachakra Tantra, the most famous commentary, ancient commentary to the Kalachakra Tantra. So I thought I'd go through that. It says here, Sangye Chamden Deni, the Buddha, the victor, right, the victorious one, Sangye ki shing tongsum ki tongchen bijikten ki kam namsu, in countless planets of tongsums. We had that in the diamond cutter, like world systems of 1,000 planets, 1,000 world systems of 1,000 planets each. In those, Gyume Tuku sends out his illusory body, his movie Nirmanakaya, right? And Dipadan Jawa, Tayepa Nam. What I like here is he says Tayepa, which means infinite, okay? So he sends out infinite bodies to hundreds of thousands of world systems, right? And then he helps Tayepa Semchen. To me, it sounds like Natso Shindu, Natso Sukui, Natso Taki, Natso Dujuni, Natso Sapa Jishindu, Suku Chupikui Tashi Shok at the end of the Vajrayogini Tantra. Sadhana. May I go to various worlds. May I take on various disguises. May I fit the various thoughts of sentient beings who want various things, and I'll do that in various costumes, and like that, okay? Tayepa Nam. Namki Suadepa. And then countless beings asking for help. Namki Suadepa Natsuki Suatapana. And then he takes on Tayepa Ke. What's Ke? Pasha. Aren't you studying Puke?
Languages.
Yeah, languages. He takes on infinite numbers of tongues to fit the who wants him to talk in Namaha, who wants him to talk in Sanskrit, whoever wants him to talk in Brooklyn, He can speak it. Okay, and then he goes to Jiten, Dan Jiten de Debechu. He teaches them all these, teaches them infinite kinds of Dharma. And then it says, Tamje Kiamba de Duma Mayano. Don't ever think he's multiple though. Just one. Just one is sending all this out. And then he goes on to say that in the Tantric worldview, he's like enlightened long ago. And he shows up, he's not in Tushita paradise, Ganden. He's in Okmin, which is below no other, the heaven below no other. And his real form is Vajradhara, like Tantric deity. And that's the real Sambhogakaya. That's the enjoyment body sitting in the paradise. Doesn't look like anybody else. It looks like Vajradhara, like a Tantric angel. Core. And then, it can look like a lady or whatever. They call core, and then multiple emanations in that paradise. Like whoever he's teaching, 10th level bodhisattvas, he or she is teaching. He or she just emanates as a Tantric deity there. And then that enjoyment body sends down countless emanations to Tantric. The part I like is like Tantric pockets around the world. Okay, it's like, you heard Odayana? There's a retreat center by Tartang Tuku Rinpoche in California called Odayana, right? And we have it sometimes in the Vajrayogini Sadhana, Odayana Yutu, and Odayana Bishuwete Yutu. Yeah. And you see it especially in Nyingma text, like Ugyen means yeah, Padmasambhava. So what it means is there are Tantric pockets around the world. Udayana is one of them. Where is it? I mean, nobody knows. West. It's at the west. I mean, that's why he named it in California, Tartan Tuku Rinpoche. So, but what it means is there are little, I like to think of them as spheres around the world where Tantra is being taught. Like Lord Buddha is not emanating 12 Ds, and there's not going through that shtick anymore. There's just a Tantric bubble in that place. And Lord Buddha is emanating as a Tantric deity and teaching Tantra to people. And that's the 12 deeds, in Tantric terms. It's just pockets around the world where people have the karma to hear Tantra, real Tantra being taught in a place of Tantrikas. Like I think of it as small little pockets, like small little spheres, small little paradises around the world where Tantra is being taught. And that's all the 12, that's the real 12 deeds going on, nowadays. So that's the Tantric presentation. So now you have what we call the normal one, then you have the special one, and now you got the Tantric one, okay? How are we doing on time? You want to do some more? One more step, okay, and then we'll take a break. And you can read that in that selection from the Kalachakra Tantra, when you ever get your reading. I'm going to skip the holidays because I need to look at the calendar. I want to relate them to Western months for you roughly, okay? So we'll come back to that. Then there's what's called I call it the whole story. This is the whole story. This is by Sarah Jetson, Chiki Gyaltsen. He's the great textbook writer from Sergei, who taught Kedrup Dembadarge, who's the great textbook writer from Sarah May. We say Kedrup Dembadarge outdid his teacher. They were perceived as having some friction by they would say people of lower karma perceived them as having some disagreement or something. And then there's, debates like, oh, he was just doing better than his teacher. He was like taking his teacher's work further. And then there's weird debates like that. Most people just think it was a big tantric setup, and Kedrup Dembadarge wrote those books in order to fit the specific disciples in Saramay. Okay, but anyway, Sergei is extraordinary, Sarah Jetson, and I think his presentation of the 12 deeds is the best that I've seen. So here we go. Because Kedrup Dembadarge didn't do it. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to... He says, according to the Hinayana, he was just on the path of accumulation, right, when he came into this world. And according to the Mahayana, it's a long story. Let me see. Oh, that's a long story. He says, refer to my previous book. And I got it. I went and with the computer and I pulled it out and I put it in your reading when he says that, because it didn't seem fair to me. And he says, do you know there's a 75, 76, 77,000 countless eons, right? Like, supposedly that's how long it takes to get through even the first two paths, especially. Something like that. But more specifically, it refers to how many Buddhas you have paid honor to. You know, it's like when you get through spending 75,000 lifetimes honoring the Buddhas of that world, then you're on stage 1. Then when you do 76,000 Buddhas in 76,000 lifetimes, honoring them, serving them, you get to stage 2. And then when you do 77,000, you get to stage 3. Something like that, okay? So after stage 3, we're talking after stage 3. He went to, I gotta get this straight. He paid honor to the Buddha called Dipamkara, and then he put his feet at the head of Jamba number 6. It's another Buddha, and then that completed his 77,000 honorings, and that was enough karma for him to become the Buddha, a Buddha. So it's sometime in primeval history, after 77,000th lifetime, in the 3rd level of honoring this particular Buddha, whose only his name is left in this world now. I mean, I couldn't even find the Sanskrit, you know. Just this name is left in Tibetan. I mean, it says, then he became enlightened. Lord Buddha became enlightened. And his name was Wambo Tok. At that time, you know, when he really became enlightened, back then, his name was Wambo Tok. You can't even find that in the ancient scriptures, you know. The Sanskrit would be like Indraketu or something, but it's like gone in history. It's like so old that you can't find any. I couldn't find anything else. Okay, but he became that kind of, that Buddha had that name. Then it says, then in his 30,000th life after that. Okay, and that raises questions anyway. I mean, what does it mean, take a life after you're enlightened? You see, but apparently he's like emanated in 30,000 in a row, different people. And then he meets the Buddha called Kashyapa. Kashyapa is Buddha number 3 in our world, okay, lately. Like 1,000 Buddhas are going to appear in this eon. Gautama or Shakyamuni happens to be number 4. Okay, so he goes and pays honors to Buddha number 3, okay, called Kashyapa, right? And then he emanates, so he has emanated himself as a youth, as a divine youth, to pay homage to Kashyapa. So we're back like thousands of eons ago, okay? Billions of years ago. Then he says, what should I do now? Then he goes and emanates in Tushita, okay? All right, so that's the whole history if you ever want to know. I don't think anyone does, but anyway. So he got enlightened so many zillion eons ago. Then he spent 30,000 lifetimes emanating as a different people. And then in the 30,000th one, he pays homage to the last Buddha. And then he gets his rear end up to Tushita paradise. And he's called Tlaibu, which means divine youth, Dambato Karwa. Okay, and I'll just write it for you. I couldn't find it. Again, the sources are very old. And I couldn't find much for it. Say Dhamma Tokarwa. Dhamma Tokarwa. Dhamma just means like highest, like Dundam Demba. And then Tok means the top of anything, like the top of a flagpole, that what do you call it, that round thing? Yeah, it's called a Tok. And the top of a plant which is blazing with color is called Metok, fire Tok, which is the Tibetan word for flower. And then Tok means that bump on the head, or the yogi's hair when they tie it up here, that's called a Tok. So Tokara would mean like he had a special white blonde hair or something, I don't know, white Tok. His name is White Tok, okay? I don't know, some kind of a white top knot or something like that. I couldn't find it, like it's very ancient, really, really ancient. The only Sanskrit I could find is Shweta Ketu, which means white Tok. And that's how he emanates to Tushita. That's how the story really began, okay? The story of the 12 deeds really begins with Lord Buddha emanating himself in Tushita as this divine youth. And then he starts teaching Dharma there. He's teaching Dharma in Tushita paradise to 10th level bodhisattvas, because they're the only ones who can see him as a Sambhogakaya, you know. So like he's teaching all these 10th level bodhisattvas. Then he gets this wake-up call, you know, and we'll go through it. But anyway, they say that the Buddhas of the 10 directions, you know, play their symbols, you know, and then he's like, wait, I hear something, you know. And then there's this verse, and they say, don't forget the promise you made, you know, which is like he promised to go to the worst world in history, you know, earlier. Like before he became a Buddha, our Buddha said, I'm going to reserve my activities for the most screwed up world I can find in history, you know, and I'm going to teach Tantra there, you know, like very few Buddhists teach Tantra, you see, according to one school of thought. So he's like, I'm going to teach Tantra. And to do that, you really have to find the worst place, because Tantra feeds on like the worst karma. Tantra feeds where things are bad, you know, like the highest message is available to the times which are the worst, you know. So he says, I'm going to wait till I get to in history there's a really screwed up planet. Then I'm going to emanate there and teach Tantra, you know. So he hears this thing like, don't forget the promise you made. And he's like, you know, and he's like, oh, gotta go, you know. And then all these 10th level bodhisattvas are like, wait, you know, who's going to teach us, you know? What are you doing? You can't leave. We have to learn Dharma from you. We're almost there, you know. Just wait a while. He says, no, I gotta go. I got this call, you know. Of course, it's probably Abhidharma system, right? Anyway, I got this call. I gotta go. And he says, don't worry, I got this other disciple called Ajit. And he takes his crown off, his Dharma crown, and he puts it on Ajit, right? Boom. And he says, Ajit, you teach these guys. I gotta go, you know. And he leaves. He goes and appears in his mother's womb as a 6-tusked light blue elephant. Okay, like his mother sees it, and with a halo, like a golden halo around him, you know, like, and that's how his mother dreams, and he takes this form. Don't ask me. I mean, each tusk has a meaning, and I don't remember. But anyway, he enters the womb like that. Who's Ajit? Me Pam, right? Maitreya. Yeah. Who wrote this book? I think it's very cool. Where are we getting the 12 deeds from? Who's reporting the 12 deeds? You know, in the UttaraTantra is the guy who's got the crown on, Gyaltsab, right? The real Gyaltsab. By the way, who's writing the book in Tibetan? Gyaltsab. You know, the regent. Yeah, it's very cool. The whole thing is coincidence, I'm sure. So Gyaltsab is reporting about UttaraTantra, which is written by Maitreya, to whom the crown has been given, because he's babysitting in Tushita, while Lord Buddha goes and does the 12 deeds. Okay, I think that's a good place to stop. Okay, then we'll start from the womb. Okay, okay. Shibhuti Dashimedodam Rirabdingshininde Kyampari Sangye Shindu Mete Uwagi Dokunanda Shinacha Idam Guru Ranamandala Yami. Oh, one last thing. About the birth, right? About entering the womb. Some people say that you might as well stick the entering the womb and the birth together. Right? I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, some people say, when they count the 12 deeds, they say, why count entering the womb and being born separately? I mean, really, it's the same sort of stage in this life, right? And then some people do that, but then how many deeds? 11. Because they say, that school of thought says, his time in Tushita heaven, teaching as the divine youth, should be counted as the beginning of the process. So, you know, some people count it that way. Number 1 is teaching in Tushita heaven. Number 2 is what? Leaving Tushita and entering the womb. Those two together as number 2. Okay, so you might see it that way sometimes. Then you don't get confused. Okay. Okay, have some relax. 'Cause I know it's been a long day. So get something to drink. Walk around. Okay. So we got up to the womb, I think. Let's see. I'm going to give you the long version, okay? I mean, we might as well have it on tape somewhere, someday. You know? We'll just keep going, okay? It's a long reading, sorry. Then they say that the Buddha looked, you know, the UttaraTantra says the Buddha looked upon the universe, you know, looked upon the world. And then this is how the lower schools take that looking. Okay, the higher schools take it as, you know, just checking out the universe. But here's how the lower schools say he looked in 5 ways. Okay, 1, he looked at what class of society he'd like to be born into, right? There's a big caste thing in India. And he decided it'll be royalty. Okay, so that was the first looking. Second looking was, what kind of people, you know, would I like to be born into? And he chose the Shakyas. Shakya people. Okay, it's one of the peoples of India. Okay. Then he said, what of my mother? I'm going to look at my mother. I think I'll be born in... Her name is Gyuma Hladze. Gyuma means Maya. Sanskrit is Maya. Tibetan is Gyuma. And I always wondered why she's called Maya, because Maya always implies deceit. You see? And it kind of bothered me that her name was Maya, you see? Or illusion. So illusion is not so bad, right? I mean, that kind of gets into emptiness and tantra and all that. But it's interesting that Jetsumba, Sarah Jetsun, he takes the trouble to say he chose his mother Maya, who was free of all Maya. You see? In the Tibetan, it's Yogyu Tadatan Jawa Gyuma. You know, illusion or deceit, who is free of all deceit. Implying that somehow her name is a contradiction. Like it was meant to mean no deceit. So her name is called illusion, Maya. In the sense that, maybe in the sense of emptiness, which is beyond all deceit, you see. So I thought that was kind of cool. And he looked at the time and he chose the worst time. Okay? Which we call Dunyi, right? Nyingma, you know, Nikma. It's not Nyingma, okay? Nikma means the dregs of society or the dregs of time, or tea, what do you call that stuff in the bottom of the cup? Dregs, yeah. Well, the stuff at the bottom of the cup is called Nyingma also, Nikma. So our day, the days that we live in are called the days of Nyingma. And there are 5 Nyingmas, and here's 5 more we take off on. First one is the times are Nyingma, which means there's a lot of conflict in the world. These are, and they're not just talking 2003, okay? I mean, this is like since about 2,000 years ago, okay? I think James said what? There haven't been 45 days of peace in this world in the last 2,000 years or something? I mean, some historian has figured that out. But anyway, then lifetimes are what do you call it? What do they, degenerate. It's called the 5 degenerations. Lifetimes are short. Like we're down to the 100-year lifetimes. And during the course of eons, you go from 80,000 to 100 years. We're at the bottom of the sine wave. Then it will go back up. Actually, it goes down to 10, and then goes back up to 80,000 or something. So we're very close to the bottom. We're like at the last billionth of 1% as far as lifetimes, how long we live. Then Tawa Nyingma, we have very bad worldview, and it's hard to change people who have bad worldview. You know, like the worldview almost prevents them from changing their worldview. Okay. I think we saw that in New York, or we had it in the prison yesterday. We're trying to explain the two choices about violence. Do you fight back or do you not fight back, and how neither one is correct? And then one of the guys didn't have, like one guy got it. The guy in front of me got it. He's a Spanish-American guy. He got it. And then one guy in the back was that, yeah, but you still have to defend yourself, you know, or something like that, and he didn't get it, you see. And so worldview is kind of slippery. Worldview is really hard to change. Then Nyomong Nikma. You know, Ngar talk means mental afflictions in people's minds are tough. You know, like, tough and rough. And Yun Ringwa means they stay there for so long, you know, and you get angry and it just stays and stays and stays, you know. Okay? And then Semjen Nyikma means people are just it's the degenerate times as far as the kind of people, meaning difficult to dulwa, difficult to discipline people, to break them is difficult nowadays. Okay, like a horse, dulwa. Yeah. Okay. Then he goes into the conversation where the 10th level bodhisattvas are begging him to stay, and I won't go into it. But the main, yeah.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Did I miss a
four,
Nyikma?
5 times, and I thought we had 5 lower school reasons.
Did we not have 5? Do you guys have?
4 ways.
Lower ways.
Oh, we don't have 5? Oopsie. Oh, sorry, the first one I missed. Okay? The first of the things he looked at I missed, which was the country. He chose a country. Or a place, and that is Kapila city, Kapila, in our planet. Okay, so Lord Buddha chose to be born in Kapila. It's Kapila, in India, in Zambaling, in Jambudvipa. Okay, that was the first one. Sorry. So now we got 5 and 5. Okay. Then there's the arguments, and then they said, look, if you leave, who's going to teach us? That was one argument. And the other one was, you know, times are bad, and there are 18 other religious teachers in the world right now. And if you know, sorry, I don't know, how's that work? Oh, if you leave as teacher, then those 18 will take over as teacher, and that's not a good thing. And then he lists 18 teachers who were around at that time. I couldn't find them in Sanskrit. Like, all these things are gone. You know, but there were 18 teachers around at the time, and they weren't teaching like perfect worldview, and they said that's going to be the problem. But he said, don't worry, I'll take care of them. So anyway, he has a long list of the 18 teachers. Then some more notes. Dude, there's a calendar, Doug. I think it's on the, is it right there on the shelf, on the, one of those Howell calendars? Yeah. I'm going to go through with you the, it's a good time to do the holidays. Because they give the date that he went. Now, you got to know the dates in Tibet are done according to the 60-year cycle, Chinese 60-year cycle, which there are 12 animals and 5 elements. And then you combine elements and animals. You know, like this happens to be, I don't know if they did it this year in here. Yeah, it's the water sheep year. Okay, so Among the 12 animals, it's the sheep. Among the 5 elements, the water. And then because things don't repeat more than every 60 years, you can generally date people. And then each cycle of 60 years is called a Rupjung. So we're like on the 14th Rupjung or something like that, since they began keeping the dates in Tibet. But that's how they date years. Then months, there's like 4 or 5 choices on how to do the months. There's an ancient Indian system, there's other systems. But there's a thing called Hornda, which is Mongolian month. And I guess while the Mongols were in control of China and the rest of the world, this system became the normal system. So they date all the Buddha's life occurrences according to a lunar system of months. So I'm going to give you that. I don't know what that corresponds to. Well, anyway, let's go through it this way. I thought I would just give you all the dates that we would normally celebrate in a year, okay? First one is in the 11th Mongolian month, okay, lunar month. On the 25th, we celebrate Vajrayogini Day. Now that's not to do with what we're doing today, but I thought you'd just like to know that. So it's the 11th month, 25th day. And then the 10th day of the 12th month is Chakrasambhara Day. Yeah, the 10th day of the 12th month is Chakrasambhara Day. Vajrayogini's boyfriend. Okay. The 15th day of the first month is called the Day of Miracles, Chocho Duchen. This is a day that it's not a major holiday, but it's the day that Lord Buddha used miracles to defeat some guys he was debating. He had a miracle contest with some non-Buddhist masters and out-miracled them. Okay. Let's see here. I don't have any more for a while. Okay, the 4th month, 15th day, we call Saga Dawa, right? Saga is one of the Mongolian months. It's the name of that Mongolian month. Dawa means moon. And it's the full moon of that month. And that we call Enlightenment Day. And normally that's also celebrated as the day of the parinirvana. And the day of the coming out of the, the conception day, okay? The day of entering the womb, okay? So those 3 events happen, we celebrate them on the same day. Entering the womb, getting enlightened, and passing parinirvana, okay? I wonder if that corresponds to this one. Let me see, Sangandawa Yanga Tsechunga. Yeah. And that's the day he entered the womb. And you'll get that in your meeting, okay? July 1st is Ken Rinpoche's birthday. I think we made that up for his green card application. Geshe Lothar got July 4th because we couldn't remember Rinpoche's, but we figured 4th of July we could remember, so his passport says 4th of July. And then we wrote up birth certificates from, anyway. The 6th of July is His Holiness's birthday. I think that one they really know. They call it Chunkar Duchen in Tibet. Like, Tibetans don't keep their birthdays. Everybody in Tibet celebrates their birthday on the New Year, on New Year's Day. In Mongolia, they celebrate their birthday on Jetsunkapa's Day, which is really cool. Everybody. Which I think that's really a cool custom. Okay, the 4th day of the 6th month is to me the most important holiday. What's that? Yeah, the day Lord Buddha gave the first teaching. So that's always celebrated on the 4th day of the 6th Mongolian month. Then there's a date, what month is that? 9th month, 22nd day. Is the day that Lord Buddha returned from another world where he was teaching one of his parents. I think it was his mother, I don't remember. Yeah. Okay, so it's called Labab Duchen, which means falling from the deity's place. Descent from the deity's, descension from the deity's place, okay? And that's a big holiday. People are happy that he came back. And then for your information, the 25th day of the 10th month is always, it's called Gandeng Namchu, which means the offering of the 25th of Tushita, and that's Jetsun Kappa's day. Now back out 10 months from after the conception day. Sorry. What do you come up with? Conception day was 15th of the 4th month. So the second month around the 15th. I think it's the 8th, but they don't have it here. But a minor holiday is the date of coming out of the womb. Okay? Like according to scripture, it was a full 10 months. And then so we do celebrate a minor holiday on the day he came out. I believe they chop off a week, but I'll check it for you, okay? And anyway, about 9.5 months to 10 months later, we celebrate the actual coming out of the womb, okay? So that's just a custom. And there'll be a summary of all those holidays. So I think there should be 6 major holidays. I think they speak of 6 major holidays, but you can check. And I'll have it in your reading. He came out of his mother's right side. Some people say her armpit. Some people say that the loa, which is like the right side of her lung, but the right side of her chest, and just came out. No blood, no problem. She didn't feel much. They say that holy beings are born like miraculously and don't hurt their mothers. Okay, so he just popped out. Okay, and we'll talk later about what he said. And then all the deities dropped flowers on his head. And people picked him up, deities picked him up in a golden cloth. And people did an offering. And when we do sojong, you'll see the trussel, where Rinpoche will get out a basin, and there'll be a mirror, and you take a special feather, and you repeat that process. Jitar kyuki tambani, deshin sheikun trusutar, hayachuni dapai deshin daki chugyo. It's in the Daki also, in the sadhana. Famous verses, okay? Then he takes his steps in the 7 directions. In the 6 directions. 7 steps each in the 6 directions. And that's still sort of a little custom when you bow down before you give bodhisattva bows. Like if you've ever seen His Holiness do the whole thing, he'll do prostrations in each of the directions. I thought you'd like to know why he was called Siddhartha and why he was called Shakyamuni. And at this point in the text, and it's on your homework, Sarah Jetson gives a nice explanation. Like, I haven't seen them explain so nicely. He says, when Lord Buddha came out of his mother's side, the deities dropped jewels. Like, there's this big thing that when a very virtuous person's around, jewels will drop from the sky, like just diamonds and rubies and emeralds and things like that. Just like, I assume they don't hurt anybody. And then the whole world was enveloped in this beautiful light, like a rainbow light. And then all the people around there, like all the people who lived in India or something, anybody who was sick was suddenly cured. Anybody who was emotionally stressed suddenly was happy, you know. And people just went into states of bliss, spontaneous states of bliss everywhere. And then this thing happened where everybody who wanted something got it that day. You know, like everybody was hoping for a new car, got a new car, you know, like that. And that's called, that object that you want is called dun. Like dun means artha. Artha means dun. Artha in Sanskrit means dun. And it just means object that you're working for. Like shendun and rangdun. And then drup means to get it. And that is siddha in Sanskrit. So siddha artha means got what they wanted. So everybody, the king and the queen decided to name him Siddha Artha, meaning everybody got what they wanted that day. So let's call him Siddhartha. I always wondered why he was called Siddhartha before he became enlightened, you see, because, you know, it would make sense. And that's why so many Tibetans are called Dundup. Or you see it as Dundup, right? And it means Siddhartha. Okay, yeah.
Didn't the same thing happen when he was, like we talked on the Heart Sutra, that he beamed light and everybody got what they wanted?
I don't know. I don't remember it exactly, but something like that. I know like the earth would shake and, you know, yeah. Especially when somebody sees emptiness or something directly, then there's an earthquake and stuff like that. Usually the whole universe quakes, like goes, the matrix shifts. Then this is cool. The tribe in which he was born was called Shakyas, right? Not to be confused with Sakyas, which are a later Tibetan lineage, you know, like a couple thousand years later. So Shakya is not the same as Sakya. Shakya. And then Muni comes from a root, Indo-European is M-E-U-H, muh, and it means to be silent. And the words mute and mum and mystery and mystic come from that root. It means to be silent. And the Sanskrit is Muni. And you might hear it in modern yoga schools. People will say, I'm going to do Mauna for a year, which is a derivative of Muni. And it means I'm going to keep silence. So we kept Mauna for 3 years. Pretty good. In retreat, you know. So Muni means silent one, the one who doesn't speak. And then when Setter Jetson explains it, he's obviously drawing from an older scripture. Why? He's going to explain why he was called the quiet Shakya. You know, by the way, what he says is, all the Shakya people were big blabbermouths up to that time. You know, and everybody was just gossiping about nothing, you know. They spent most of the day talking about meaningless stuff and busy, you know, just busy all day. So he counts talking and busyness as one thing, you know. He says same thing, you know, like just being busy all day, too much to do, looking at all these newspapers, looking at the news, listening to the news, talking about the news, you know, this whole thing about needing to know too much and having too much to do and just being too busy, you know. And he said, but here comes a guy who is Muni, you know, who is quiet. He's meaning quiet life, simple life, and then verbally just quiet. So he was called Shakyamuni. Okay, Shakyamuni. But the Tibetans translated as Tupa, the able one. You see? The able one. The early Tibetan translators chose the word Tupa. So it doesn't come out in the Tibetan. You see, when you read this paragraph in the Tibetan, it says, he's called the able one because he didn't engage in that blab blab that everybody else did. You see, and then you're like, you see, so it's good to know, it's good to study Sanskrit. It opens your eyes further. Once your Tibetan is perfect, it's good to go to Sanskrit. Okay. By the way, sometimes he's called the God of Gods, and he explains that name. He says, because even the gods bowed down to him, but that, you knew that. Okay. Bunch of other kings were born that day. You don't need to know that. Then in the Seiryo Kangchen, what's a Kangchen? Himalavat. In the Himalayas. In the land of the snows. In the Himalayas. Okay? There was a yogi called Nakboa, which means the black one. Sometimes Krishna is translated that way because he's dark. Krishna can mean the dark side of the moon and stuff like that, okay? Because his skin is dark blue. But anyway, there was a yogi named Nakboa, and he's staying up in the Himalayas. And he uses his ESP, you know, and he looks down to that city, what's it called? Kapila city, okay? And he says, a guy has been born today, you know. And if he becomes a world emperor, he could either become a world emperor or, what does it say, sorry. If he stays in the home life, he'll become a world emperor. If he chooses to become a yogi, he'll get enlightened, you know. And he gives this prophecy, okay. And then the yogi staying up in the Himalayas says, since these are the bad days, these are the days of strife, I think he should be enlightened. I think he should go the second way. Okay. So that finishes that. Where are we? Oh, that was the. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that finished the. What was the third one? Ganden? Oh yeah, born. So he's come out now. Okay, sorry, we're going slow, right? Number 4. Basically, he studies, he learns to read and write. He masters the scholastic sciences. He masters archery. He masters swimming. He masters elephant riding and taming elephants. And just basically, he gets to know all the things he needs to know to run a kingdom. Like, okay. Then we get to the 5th one, playing with the queens. Okay. And it says, Jetsunba's funny. He says, Lord Buddha had to relate to all of us, right? So he had to do this one too. And so he names, he spends along the next part of his life, up until he's 29. He spends all those years in the home life. And it's not stated in the Tibetan sources I've read, but it's common knowledge that he was married and he had a child. And here it just emphasizes that he was basically having a good time that any young man would have who was in charge of a kingdom with a whole circle of queens. Okay. Then he gets on to the 6th deed, which is leaving the home life. Okay, leaving the worldly life. And he says when he was 29 years old, he gets this call again. He gets this divine call again. Like the Buddhas of the 10 directions wake him up. He gets a wake-up call. Okay, and then Sarah Jetson starts to quote the Lalita Vistara Sutra, like the Cosmic Play Sutra, and I really like it. So I'm just going to read it to you. This is like just an off-the-cuff translation. And this is what he hears when he gets his wake-up call. Like he just hears it in his own head, right? Bumba Chibe Buan Korazin. Shin. Cyclic life is like a bottle filled with bees. Mad bees. Siso Mitakyumi. These 3 worlds are impermanent, like a cloud in the in the spring. Watching people get born and die is like watching a drama, like a play. It's just like people just coming in stage right, leaving stage left, just boom, they're gone, They get shot during the play. And the speed at which they cross the stage is about the speed of lightning. When you get to about my age, you start to appreciate that. Like I meet my boss, this he's up to 200 million a year now, right? And he's old, and he's running out of energy, juice, and you can see it. And then you're like trying to remember, like the last 20 years is just like a flash of lightning. It's all over, It's just gone, The way water falls off a very steep cliff, our life is flowing like that. Now you could get out of all this trouble and reach deathlessness if you could just get enlightened. Also, it's your responsibility to give the nectar of deathlessness to all these thirsty people in the world. And don't forget, you made that promise earlier. So, I think you got to get out of the palace. So he gets this message. This is his message. So, because of that message, he sneaks out, and as far as the eastern gate of the palace. And as you know, he sees a man who's gotten old. Like the king has been protecting him from seeing anything bad, because he knows the prophecy of the wise men. So then he sees his first old person, and I remember the story, right? He asks his friend, what happened to this guy, He says, he got old. He says, well, why? He says, what do you mean why? Everybody gets old. It just happens, He says, am I going to get like that? He said, sure. So then he gets really freaked out. That was the first of the 4 gates, okay? Now the 2nd gate is the southern gate. And he sees a sick man, okay? And then he freaks out. And he gets the same question, same process. At the western gate, he sees a body being carried by, and he just freaks out. Like he's just really freaked out. Then when he goes to the northern gate, he sees this beautiful monk passing by, like totally happy and blissed out and just walking, and, in the saffron robes, okay? And he's like, now that's cool. Then he asks his father, can I go do that, become a monk, And the father says, absolutely not. And then the father puts soldiers all around the palace, like a whole body, like soldier every few feet around the palace, 24-hour guard. And then Shakra, who is a divine being, right, one of the deities, puts them all to sleep. And then he's able to escape the palace. Okay, and he basically, Shakra tells him, go out and do what you have to do, you know, go help people. Okay, and then he goes out and he switches his clothing and he cuts his hair, and he makes himself a monk. Okay, which is interesting. Okay, now we're on to the, what was number 7? Tapas. Right?
Extreme means.
Yeah, extreme means, like doing these difficult hardships. And it says here, you got to know, in the lower schools, okay, in the Abhidharma system, he goes through 6 years of trouble. You can say 6 years of a wrong spiritual path that doesn't work. Because he slipped one day and said one bad word to Kashyapa Buddha in his previous life. Okay? So, you know, according to the lower school, he had to go through 6 years of intense pain because he slipped one day and said one negative thing to Kashyapa Buddha. Okay? So, that's the lower school. So it says also, in order that we would know that we have to work hard. You know, like it doesn't come easy. And if you had to summarize what His Holiness is always saying in every teaching he ever gives, it's like, you know, don't expect it to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes years of training, years of work, you know? So like that. Okay. Oh, this is a funny story. You're getting tired, but that's all right. His body got skinny. He looked like he was about to die, or he had died. And his father, whose name was Shuddhodana, saw him and started to cry out of depressed, you know, like worried about him. And he comes out of his deep meditation. He's been in a meditation called sky-like meditation, right? And he says, Ninda karsa salatung yansi. It is possible that one day the moon and the sun and even the stars might burn out. That's possible. Like the day will come, you know. Soso keo yin yang namichi. I may not have seen emptiness yet, but before I'm done in this life, I will reach deathlessness. You know, I may be a pratyajna, but before I'm done, I'll reach deathlessness. Okay. By the way, that's one of the scriptures that people quote to prove that he wasn't a Buddha to start out with, but anyway, you know that. Dechir dila nyangen kyumache. So don't do nyangen. But what's nyangen? What's nyangen ledepa? Going beyond nyangen is nirvana. But what does nyangen itself mean? Grieving, worried. Don't nyangen about me. I'm not going to die. You know, you don't have to worry about me. You know, Rinpo Mito Chanchu said, before long, I'm going to be a complete Buddha. You know, so don't worry about me, Dad. You know, don't cry for me, Argentina. Okay. Then there's the story of the lady who comes up and offers him some yogurt. Do you know this story? Or milk or yogurt, and it's actually a bowl of milk, and she has taken it from 1,000 cows. And she has taken the best part of 1,000 and mixed it all into one bowl. Okay, her name is Lekema, and she gives him this milk. And at that moment, he decides to give up stupid asceticisms. You know, like he breaks with his 5 friends that he's gone out in the forest with. He breaks with them, and they criticize him. You know, they say, "Oh, you gave up the yogi's way. You know, you're not a pure monk anymore. You know, now you're corrupt. You're taking food, you know, from a lady." And he says, the extreme thing doesn't make it for me. You know, he's just like, you know, I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to be healthy. And then his body begins to take on a golden color. Okay. Then he goes to the heart of enlightenment, which is where? Bodh Gaya, or Vajrasana. And he goes into a meditation called diamond-like meditation. Dorje Tapo Tingin. Okay. And then he sees that he has to get enlightened. So he goes out and he pulls a bunch of grass from around the fields, and he sets it down in a little pile in front of the Bodhi tree, and he sits down. Okay? That's the 8th Buddha deed. And I love the verse. Oh, here's the verse. Tender daki ludi kam kyang rung. I don't give a damn if my whole body dries out under this goddamn tree. Loosely translated. Rupa Papa Shanam Shikyangrum. I don't care if my bones rot here. I don't care if my skin falls off. I don't care if my body just disintegrates. Kalmang Nyeke Chanchumatopar. Until I reach enlightenment, Tendilan, I will not stir from this seat. You know, like it's really beautiful. He says, until I get enlightened, I'm not getting up. You know, like he's just like, they call it Tentok Chik. Say Tentok Chik. It's very famous, Tentok Chik. I'll write it for you. Say Tentok Chik. Ten means seat. What's the Sanskrit? Asana. Asana. Okay. Tok means via or on. On one seat, chik means one. And it's just like, it's like an act of truth. Like, I swear I'm not going to get up till I get enlightened. You know, if I die here, I'll die. Or I'll get enlightened. One or the other. I'm tired. That's it. You know, so he does it Tentok Chik. I like that. Anyway, it's like he's swearing to become enlightened, okay? Number 9, defeating the demons. It says here, it's really cute, it says, in order to remind those Buddhists who might come after him over the centuries that it's possible you'll get some problems and obstacles, you know? He goes through this play with the demons, okay, like the demons, and then he kicks their butt, basically, okay. And the way he does it, it's very beautiful here. He's got a thing called I think you call it. Let me see what it's called. Zupu. Say zupu. Zupu. If you see a really good painting of Lord Buddha, there's a little bump here, and there's a tiny hair. There's a hair follicle, and there's a tiny hair. And supposedly you could pull this hair out and stretch it around like a whole galaxy. You know, like if you kept pulling, it would just come out. And I believe they say that this particular sign comes from taking your Lama to the airport and stuff like that. Like, I'm not hinting, okay? But the karma of taking your Lama, like doing a Margie thing, if you know Margie in New York. Like, she used to drive me anywhere. Like at midnight, 3 o'clock, Lama Supa also, like 3 o'clock in the morning, Lama Supa needs a ride somewhere, just calls her and she comes. She's got like 20 kids, grandkids. She's got busy. She's got to get to work in the morning. She gets in her car, she goes. And this is supposedly the karmic cause of this particular thing. But then you get some kind of powers. You can send out powers from this Zupu. And so he does. He sends out light from the Minsam, from the chakra. What's it called? Ajna chakra. There's a chakra here, yeah. And then he sends out light and destroys demons with it. Okay, like that. And if you ever get into a long retreat and can do higher tantric Dzogchen practices, this becomes developed a lot. You can work on developing it and stuff like that. So anyway, this light goes to the demons' places and wipes them out, basically. And he lists all the kinds of demons that got wiped out. But in the higher teachings, okay, there's actually, he went through defeating 4 demons. And I thought you should know the 4 demon thing, okay? It's a nice thing to know. It's very famous. Where is that? You want me to write them? You got anything else you got to do today? No. I mean, you might. Let's just do it, okay? I'm sorry. We'll give you a nice dinner afterwards if you cook it. Say dushi. Dushi. Du means demon or evil spirit or something like that. Okay. Shi means the four. So this is the general name down here. The four demons. Okay. And the first one is called Nyomon Kidu. I've shortened it to Nyomon Du. Say Nyomon Du. Which is? Yeah. Now, I guess it's big debate in the scriptures. And I'm not going to do the whole debate, but there's like 4 different positions on when do you defeat this demon? At what stage? Let's say in the paths, Salam Kin Namjat, in the system of the bhumis and the paths, when is it that you actually defeat this demon? Yeah, Miloblam. As you go into the 5th path, reaching the 5th path and defeating this demon are simultaneous. What about bodhisattva levels? Huh? 8th. Okay, 8th. You actually reach what's nirvana for the other tracks on the 8th bodhisattva level. And then you use 9, 10, or 9, or however you want to count it, as overcoming obstacles to omniscience. Okay? But you destroy your last mental affliction before you get enlightened, you see? If you follow the 10 paths, the 10 bodhisattva bhumi system. Because the final mental affliction is what? According to the higher schools. Subtle ignorance. Not understanding the thing about projections, you see? So, some lower systems don't even say that that's a mental affliction. And the definition of it in the 12 links is that it's not a mental affliction. That it's a cause for mental affliction, but it's not a mental affliction. And then there's a whole long debate. But anyway, you stop seeing things self-existently forever at by the 8th bodhisattva bhumi, okay? So there's this whole debate, like Jetsun Kappa says in his Serteng, which is his book on the perfection of wisdom. It's like this thick. He wrote it when he was very young. Like I think he was 30-something. And then later he kind of said, I wrote it a little too quick or something like that. Later he kind of implied that, it's known among Gelugpas that that book has a few positions that are a little bit touchy. No one's going to say Jetsun Kappa made a boo-boo. But they would say, Jetsun Kappa himself said, I did that sort of roughly, and you guys have to, expand on that as you go. He said that. So anyway, this is the position in his book called The Golden Rosary, okay, Serteng, is that actually that demon must have got defeated before. Because you get rid of it at the 8th bodhisattva bhumi. You don't have to wait to get enlightened to get rid of that demon, okay? What's the second demon?